All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're not just looking at history, we're launching a full-blown forensic investigation into its source code. We're going to tackle some of the biggest mysteries out there. The Mud Flood, the Lost Empire of Tartaria, even Atlantis. But we're doing it with a hacker's mindset. This is not about digging for dusty ruins. No, this is about debugging the timeline itself. So, let's get into it.
I want you to start with this one. Simple idea. Just entertain it for a minute. What if the history we all learned in school isn't a perfect record of the past, but is actually a piece of software? A massive, complex program that's been written and rewritten for centuries. And, like any old piece of code, what if it's just full of bugs, corrupted files, and weird phantom subroutines that create illusions? Illusions of entire eras that might not have even been there. That's the core question we're digging into.
So how do you even spot a bug in a system that big? Well, they show up as these strange, persistent stories that just won't go away. These counter-narratives, the theories that get dismissed all the time, but they keep popping up like recurring error messages, all pointing to the same thing, a fundamental problem in the official code of history. It's the system telling us, hey, something's not right here.
I mean, take the Mud Flood, for example. You've seen the pictures, right? This compelling visual data, incredible old-world buildings all over the globe, with their ground floors and main entrances buried 10, 20 feet underground. Now, the popular theory says there was some kind of physical cataclysm, a massive flood of mud that buried a whole forgotten civilization. But what if the mud isn't geological? What if it's something else entirely?
Or what about Tartaria? You look at dozens of old pre-modern maps, and there it is, this huge empire called Great Tartaria just dominating Asia. And this has led a lot of people to believe that a massive, technologically advanced world power was just erased, wiped from the history books, an entire civilization just scrubbed from the code. Now, these are the glitches. But what if they're not evidence of a lost continent or a forgotten empire, but of a timeline that has been deliberately manipulated?
So if the problem isn't physical, if it's not in the ground, then where is it? And this is where we have to completely shift our perspective. The analysis we're using today suggests the error isn't in the dirt, it's in the dates. The bug is in the very architecture of our chronology. We don't need a shovel for this job. We need a decompiler.
And the tool we're going to use is something we'll call history hacking. It's a way of looking at the official timeline not as some sacred, untouchable truth, but as a piece of constructed code, a man-made system that can be reverse engineered. The whole point is to find the exploits, find the duplicated blocks of code, and find the phantom data that's been artificially inserted into the program.
Okay, so let's run the diagnostic. We're going to decompile those first two big glitches, the Mud Flood and Tartaria, and see what the code underneath actually tells us.
Now check this out. When you apply this analysis, the Mud Flood isn't about physical dirt. The mud is actually a metaphor for a huge block of artificially inserted time. We're talking hundreds of years, what we call the Dark Ages. This block of phantom time was inserted to bury the direct, seamless connection between the ancient world and the Renaissance. It's like a layer of mud, all right? But it's a mud made of time, obscuring our view of what really happened. In Tartaria, well, the code shows it was never a real, distinct empire. The name was basically a placeholder on maps for we don't know what's out there. The idea of Tartaria, this great lost empire, is what we'd call a chronological phantom, a ghost in the machine. And it was created by a very specific exploit. They took a real historical event, the invasions of the Huns, copied it, and then pasted it 800 years into the future to create a phantom echo we know as the Mongol invasions.
Did you catch that number? 800 years. That is not a random number. As we dig deeper into the source code of history, a very specific repeating algorithm starts to emerge. It's like a master key that shows us exactly how this phantom time was programmed into the system.
This number, 800. It just keeps showing up over and over again with a statistical precision that absolutely defies coincidence. It's a signature. It's like a digital watermark left in the code by the timeline's original programmers.
And this just lays the pattern out perfectly. The life story of Emperor Augustus is mirrored with stunning detail exactly 800 years later in the life of Charlemagne. The Hunnic invasion of Europe in the 5th century is a near-perfect template for the Mongol invasion in the 13th century, 800 years later. Even the Great Plagues, the Justinian Plague and the Black Death, which scientists now think were the same disease, are separated by roughly 800 years. It's a clear pattern. Copy, paste, and then shift the time.
Now, a system of historical fabrication this complex, it must have had a prototype, right? A beta test? And according to this analysis, the original template for creating a phantom past is the most famous lost civilization of them all, Atlantis. This was the proof of concept.
The key thing to understand here is that Atlantis was probably never a physical place. It was a literary and chronological construct. It was literally programmed to be the perfect negative mirror of Rome. Think about it. At the same time, Rome is being established as the eternal city, built to last forever. This story of Atlantis is created as its perfect opposite, the great, arrogant empire that sank in a single day. One is the positive image, the other is the manufactured negative.
So Atlantis becomes the master template. It's a literary invention, maybe based on a much later event, that was projected deep into the past to create a fake prehistory. And it has all the known fingerprints of the coders, including their key numbers. It was the test run. By perfecting how to create a phantom civilization in the distant past, the architects of our timeline developed the exact same methods they later used to create the phantoms of the Middle Ages. You see, Tartaria and the Mud Flood aren't new bugs. They're just running the original Atlantis code.
So, what's the protocol now? What do we do with this information? Well, it demands a complete paradigm shift. We have to stop thinking like archaeologists digging in the dirt and start acting like, well, archaeologists of the timeline. We have to start debugging the data itself.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway here. The answers to these huge historical mysteries aren't buried under layers of sediment or lost at the bottom of the ocean. The evidence is hidden in plain sight, right there in the mathematical and narrative structure of our own history books. The solution isn't to dig, it's to decompile, to look for the patterns, the duplications, the impossible cycles that expose the code for what it is, artificial.
Which of course leaves us with one last, pretty unsettling question. This entire analysis treats our shared past as a constructed, editable program. If something as fundamental as time can be coded and manipulated, what else can be? What other parts of our reality, what we perceive as real, are not fixed at all, but it just lines in the code?